What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one, I'm going to be talking about the one and only NIO stock and what you should be looking out for the future. I'm also going to break down why tomorrow is going to be a very important day because the FOMC minutes meeting is coming out, and it's going to really affect the overall market, and this will affect NIO in my opinion. So I'm going to break down why on earth this could actually cause lots of volatility in NIO, and why on earth we may actually see another push to the upside in NIO because of this, based off how the market is reacting what the Fed officials are saying right now. Now, before I break anything down about the Fed and how they may affect NEO 2, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire NEO community as a whole. And the last things, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you're guaranteed up to 12 free stocks, each worth up to $2,000. The best part is any could be a free NIO share, a free Tesla share, or a mix of all of them. It's a limited time offer. The offer ends in a week, so check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. Looking at NIO, this thing's actually looking a lot better than yesterday, and I was a little bit worried about NIO coming down and actually breaking this 9.67 level. However, we actually managed to hold it at least today as well, and NIO is actually slowly starting an uptrend. So a very good sign to see that, but I want to break down how tomorrow can end up affecting us. So just so you guys know, right now the overall market does affect how NIO moves. And right now, NIO has a stagnant price pairs ratio, which is actually showing that NIO is done dropping way harder than the overall market, at least for the time being. And NIO is starting to show better strength. And on top of that, I wanted to talk about this right here. Deutsche Bank has come out and they're giving NIO a buy rating, saying that NIO is undervalued. NIO has so much potential. NIO is also green about, let's see, 55% of the time on Wednesday, so that's another good sign. And also, if you look at November's, they are historically green months for NIO and the markets. And on top of that, if you look at the shorts volume percentage, this has been downtrending. I was worried that this would come up just a little bit more, but we might see this just continue to stagnate in these lower levels if NIO does start to push up a bit. So why on earth could NIO push up? What could trigger it? Well, there are many factors, but one of them could be the FOMC minutes meeting. This is basically the meeting from November 1st to the 2nd, the FOMC meeting. It's basically that in paper form. And the reason why that's so important is investors and institutions, they need to double check everything that's essentially going on, everything that's going on in the markets. And by doing so, it's going to really affect uh, how they see the Fed and what the Fed ends up doing. So what's going on right now is there are many Fed officials that came out a couple of days ago, right? And that's part of the reason why NIO was coming down and the whole market was taking somewhat of a hit. And if you look at NIO, we're only getting like 35 million in its volume, so it is still showing some weak volume, but that could change depending on what the Fed ends up saying. The short volume percentage has dropped a bit, which is once again a sign that the bulls are gaining control over the stock temporarily. But going back to the Fed, a couple of days ago, right? The Fed was super hawkish. They were talking about the Fed board members saying that the rate would reach 5%. Inflation is still crazy high. They kept on reiterating that over and over again. Then today comes and the Fed is suddenly becoming less hawkish, and now they're actually becoming kind of dovish in a way. So they completely shifted their narrative, and they're basically talking about how the overall rate hike may not be as bad as they thought. Inflation should be cooling off. They started saying these things, right? And this is actually helping the market to some degree. They also mentioned the fact that they are very fixated on a 50 basis point rate hike, and the market likes that because we have priced that in already. So that's part of the reason why NIO and the market are starting to perform better. Not to mention that, like I said before, Deutsche Bank is saying that NIO should hit $21 a share within the next 12 months. So they're still pretty bullish on NIO. So with that said, guys, if you look at SPY, this thing pushed. We hit 400 again, but we actually did not close above it. So we did show some nice potential. Now, I was talking to everyone about how, look, we had this nice bull flag like formation because the SPY came up pretty hard from these low levels. We come down, get a nice break to the upside. Then we started to respect this pennant. And I was worried that we could see this actually break in either direction. I was a little worried about this starting to come down a bit because of how hawkish the Fed appeared to be. However, the Fed at this time was more dovish, right? And sometimes you can't always predict that perfectly. Even I make mistakes, guys. I admit that. But What I wanted to note is we got a nice push to this 400 level and we closed right below it. In order for this thing to really push, all right, we have to get a break and hold above 402. We have to hold this level, 402. Now on the daily, we did break the 200 EMA, which is a good sign, but we need to push up harder, right? If we break 402, we have the potential to hit 407. It is still very possible to retest this trend line, 407, around that range. And if we do end up hitting it, we could see a big U-turn in the market. It's also very possible. But I just wanted to note this, guys. It's very important that you are prepared for this. On the daily, like I mentioned, we closed above the 200 EMA, which is a bullish signal. But in order for us to get confirmation of this bullish move, we have to see what happens during the Fed minutes tomorrow. If the Fed minutes come out and the policies on paper do indicate that the Fed is going to slow down on the rate hikes, become less aggressive relatively soon, that could actually positively affect the markets, and we could see the market continue to push now. And if that's the case, the whole market could actually respond in a very positive way. This could cause NIO to start pushing to the upside. NIO closed above $10. That's a good sign. NIO it has been dropping pretty hard since that last retest of this upper trend line. If NIO were to push, for instance, let me actually use the 30-minute chart. If NIO were to push, right, we have strong resistance around this 11.7 zone, but before we get there, we have to break 10.25. If this thing breaks 10.25 and starts pushing up and pushes, there's a nice gap right here. This is an indicator that NIO could hit 10.5. Break above that, I'm going to be watching 10.8. All right, I do believe NIO could actually retest that and maybe break it. If it keeps going, there is another gap up here, not to mention this resistance level, which NIO likes to retest. If you don't believe me, just look at this chart over the last couple of weeks. We had like one touch, come down, one touch, come down, one touch, come down. It does look like we might go for the touch again. However, we need to break these key levels first before getting there. So I want to see NIO tomorrow break above 10.25 and see 10.5. If NIO could achieve that, it's very likely NIO can hit 10.8 and maybe close kind of green for tomorrow. That would be a very, very good sign. If the whole market rallies very hard and NIO pushes up with it, NIO could keep going and retest 11. So be very careful with that. But that's essentially what I have for this video. NIO also has support at 9.67 and also $10 flat. Watch those zones very carefully. Break below 9.67, then there's that gap fill risk. I was talking about that. However, this time NIO held it, so I'm hoping that NIO holds it. If you're watching NIO and this thing breaks below 10.67, it could come down pretty hard. If NIO continues to push up, like I said, we got to break 10.25, then we could go for the gap fill, and at 10.5 to 10.8, very, very possible. Like I mentioned, guys, I'm more inclined to thinking NIO is going to push up thanks to the FOMC minutes. So that's essentially what I'm predicting. So let's hope that we see a decent report that calms things down and the market does get a nice push tomorrow that helps NIO hit the upside. That's what I have for this video. Thank you all so much for listening, and I'll see you guys in the next one. NIO to the moon, because the long-term future is still incredibly bright, and peace out.